This conference will now be recorded. 2024 regular council meeting for the town of Surfside Beach, and I welcome Pastor Kirk Lawton of Ocean Lakes Campground Ministries for offering the invocation prior to our proceedings.
Would you join me as we pray together, please? We come once again, O God, not only to invoke your presence and your guidance for this meeting, but we come with another prayer in our hearts. During these beginning days of spring, when we see flowers beginning to burst open in glorious blooms, when grass and trees are showing new signs of life, when birds are singing their melodies, we're reminded of what a beautiful world you have created for us. We would echo the words of a hymn which say, "For the beauty of the earth, for the glory of the skies, for the love which from our birth over and around us lies, Lord of all, to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise." Father, it is reassuring to know that spring awakens what winter puts to sleep. Truly, death is not the end, but it is a transition into something far more glorious that you have prepared for all your children. And those of us who are Christians in our faith are celebrating the truth that death has been defeated and that resurrection is a reality. Oh God, we need that resurrection in our own lives when we've been disappointed, frustrated, jaded by the cares of this world. So we pray this evening to you, oh God, that you, who are the God of new beginnings, would create a new beginning in our lives as your heavenly beauty fills us and overflows to those around us. Again, we would echo the words of another hymn, "God who touches earth with beauty, make me lovely too. With your spirit, recreate me, make my life anew." And this is our prayer we offer in the name and in the spirit of the one who is the fairest of 10,000, altogether lovely, and who is the victor even over death. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. Are there any motions relating to the agenda? All right, hearing none, I will move on to minutes approval for the March 12th, 2024 meeting. Do we have a motion for?
Mr. Mayor, I
Yes,
make
King.
a motion we approve the minutes for March 12th, 2024 as presented.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Public comments related to agenda items only. Do we have any public comments?
Mr. Mayor and members of the council, my name is Anusha Shift and I live at 210 South Murray Drive. I walked here, no plans to make a speech, but I picked up the agenda and see something here. I hope I'm wrong and I hope I'm reading something wrong here. My wife and I moved here back in 2017 from Detroit. Prior to that, for 12 trips we made from North Carolina to Georgia, every other weekend to go different coastal communities to see where is the best place to move to. Twice we came to Surfside Beach and stayed here. We talked to residents, we talked to homeowners. I have to first admit that I have no pending items with Mr. John Adair and I have no case with the police department. I don't need anything from them. So I'm sincerely tell you what I found. My wife and I and our kids found out that Surfside Beach is the safest, cleanest coastal community, which does have thousands of visitors coming every year and leaving, and nothing happens. It's a great place to move in. And we decided in 2017 to move here. I see here an item here regarding chief of police. These things they don't happen by themselves. If this place is clean, it's because of the leadership of John Adair. If this place is safe, it's because of leadership of Chief Hoffman. I hope I'm reading it wrong and hope you want to promote him and not release him. I really appreciate it is it is a promotion and not a release. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Ron Ott, Seventh Avenue North. In your executive session, in decades that I've been here and coming to this meeting, I've never seen anybody depicted as a person in that executive session. To me, that's wrong. We should never put anybody, and we know who it is. It says police chief. I recommend that this group of people, if there's something else you can do, do not remove this man. Okay? Do not. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. I want to thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to come here today and speak. My name is Robbie Pinto. I've been employed with the police department for roughly 8 years. I'm currently a police sergeant over the patrol division. And what's brought me here today is I was made aware of a concerning issue. I was contacted by a previous employee who wanted to make me aware of a situation that he was made aware of. He stated there's a group of disgruntled employees that have come together with a like-minded mission. This group of employees' mission is to ultimately terminate the police chief's employment. And amongst this group of employees, a group chat was created. And within that group chat, a message was disseminated by a previous employee. And that previous employee disseminated a message from a current council member requesting that exit interviews and statements be completed. When I spoke to this officer and some of the other previous officers, they felt that this specific group of disgruntled employees were solicited because they would produce a like-minded negative narrative about our current police chief, ultimately producing a biased and skewed narrative, a very misleading narrative about our police chief, in hopes to present that tonight to you guys to try and terminate his employment. The only way I can put this into perspective for you guys is it's safe to assume we all have ex-girlfriends, boyfriends, friends, spouses, just people in our lives who are not fond of us. And if I were to contact every single one of those people, and only those people that don't like us, it's safe to say they would have something very negative to say. And if those are the only people I contacted, it would produce a very skewed or biased narrative about you. What would be fair is if we contacted your current friends, family, your current spouse, and spoke to them, and they would probably tell us a lot more positive things about you. And this would produce a more accurate and fair depiction of you. Our police chief holds us to a high but fair standard, a police chief that these citizens deserve. And from time to time, we will get an officer or a group of officers that come to this police department and they're toxic. They want to ride the clock for 2.5 hours and do nothing. They want to provide these citizens with a low level of service and that they deserve better. They create a toxic work environment that our police chief doesn't stand for. He believes that these citizens deserve top tier officers. And the only way we're able to get that is to make sure all these officers are on board. And from time to time, these officers will refuse to get on board. They've all been given the opportunity to get where they need to be so they can provide the top tier service that all of you deserve. They openly chose not to, and they left disgruntled because the police chief wouldn't let them come to work and essentially do nothing. The question should be asked to your current officers, why are you still here if it's so bad to work for Chief Kenny Hoffman? And this is no jab at the town, but I'll tell you this, it's not the pay. It's no secret we can go to any agency around here. Most agencies make $10,000 to $15,000 more. I know because I've had the offers. I know many of these officers have had the offers. The benefits package is better at other agencies. The career opportunity is better at other agencies. So why are they still here? I will tell you, it's that man right there. That's why most of these officers work here. I'm the voice of patrol right now. When I tell you he's the anchor that's keeping us here. He's the reason we're here. He believes in us and we believe in him. He gives us the training, the tools, the skill sets we need to be the best police officers that we can be so that we can provide top tier service for these citizens. And I'll end with this. I think it would be detrimental to the police department and reckless not to speak to every officer here and find out why they're here. I think it will be eye-opening and not as misleading. Remember, you guys trust us 24/7 every day with your lives. You trust that when your worst day has come, when tragedy has struck, that we're gonna come and make it all better. Well, we ask you now to trust us when I tell you that that man is not the problem. Trust us when I tell you Chief Hoffman is the anchor that keeps most of us here. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to make a statement before we go too far. This has not been handled well. It's been far too public. Part of that's on town council itself. Even with the agenda, the title should not have been called out. Having said that, though these people are free to make whatever motions they want in executive session, there is no intention, as far as I know, to discuss termination at all today. So I just want to make that clear. I'll allow more comments, but I think we're getting the gist of what's being said. I think we can see the support, but, let's have one more at least, assuming somebody wants to.
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment.
Okay.
I wasn't going to, but. Tim Courtney, South Poplar Drive. I've been in this community over 15 years. I still sat in that seat as well. And we have a problem here is because in this town, every 2 years there's an election. And directors sit here and they gotta wonder or not if they're gonna make that 2-year limit. Now, I've seen it where we have a closet full of uniforms. We have a big turnover rate. That's the way South Carolina is. Okay, we give them the take-home card. Again, being a police officer takes a lot. It's about getting to know your community, know who belongs there, who knows, who doesn't. So by just getting rid of somebody every 2 years is not the solution. Solution is finding the problem out and see if you can find a medium to be halfway. But all these directors here, they'll tell you it's a 2-year job. So please think carefully before you take action. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Stain?
I asked a question of the police officers while they are coming up to, or is that out of order?
No, I'll allow it.
Before y'all came up here, I'd like for one of you, or whoever's going to represent these people, please tell us if you're being paid any overtime for being here tonight, any of you.
No, no one here is being paid any extra. We're here to support our police chief.
Thank you, sir.
Mayor, I know you said one more, so I'm just gonna go ahead and do that one more.
I meant one more for you.
Good evening, my name is Matthew Carl. I'm police corporal with the Surfside Beach Police Department. I'm here tonight to speak in support of Chief Hoffman. I watched the last council meeting, surprised to see that Chief Hoffman's ability to lead and the running of the department was being called into question. And this was only done by having the opinions of a former ex-frontal employees and not current or long-standing employees at the department. So I'm here to be that voice. I used to work in security as a supervisor, team leader in the United States Army, and then a field training officer at J. Ruwong Detention Center. Now I've been here for 3 years. I love my job, I love this work, and I love the people I work for. How much I enjoy working here can easily be measured. I live all the way out in Gallivan's Ferry, beyond Aner. What this means is during the summer times, it takes me anywhere between an hour and a half and an hour and 45 minutes to get to work one way. Then an additional hour to drive home. What this does is it makes my 12.25-hour days, if I get off on time, into 15-hour days. I also live the farthest out in the entire department. So far, in fact, I don't qualify for the take-home car program. So I have to utilize my own POV, my gas money to come all the way here just to serve and protect the citizens of Surfside Beach for a minimum of 15 hours per day, all the way away from my family. Yet, I'm still here. I'm not boosting myself up. This comes from Chief Hoffman, and similar to what Sergeant Pinto said, I could go apply to any other police department. In fact, every police department in Horry County, maybe except for Lourdes PD, I would have qualified for a take-home car, and my commute and my days would be shorter, allowing me more time with my family. All that to say is I'm showing my passion and love for this department. So I'm here at the Surfside Beach Town Council meeting on my day off, not getting paid, in my uniform, with my family here, speaking for one of the biggest reasons of many of why I'm still here at Surfside Beach Police Department. One of the main reasons why I love this job and this work is because of Chief Hoffman. He encourages me to do my job, grow my knowledge for this profession, and supports my work. Gives a listening ear when needed, and goes out of his way to accommodate his officers as much as he can. He motivates and creates a positive work environment that fosters a proactive mentality that positively affects the safety and ultimately the benefits the citizens of Surfside Beach. If it wasn't for Chief Hoffman, I probably would be at another department right now. We all have been in a work environment where there have been negative coworkers who bring down morale, cannot effectively do their job, or who are found to be incompetent. But perhaps with the full picture and context, they were just negative employees, and no matter what the agency did, they always were going to be negative. Should that represent the organization as a whole? No. Does that mean the organization is being run by someone incapable? No. Making assumptions on only the negative comments and not having any proper context or the full story behind these comments or departures will sink an organization. I've learned in this profession, it's important to get both sides of the story. Don't let some numbers of how many people have left make you falsely believe that chief is the problem when there is a problem with the department. I'll be blunt with you. There were officers that needed to leave the police department for the good of not only the police department, but the citizens of Surfside Beach. Unfortunately, chief carries that burden and the responsibility of letting people walk away from the department and or removing people. But it was all done for the betterment of the department and this town. I know this firsthand. And if any council member would like more exact details on some of these people, the comments, the department's inner workings, I will happily sit down with anyone I need to give the other side of the story. I'll leave with one final word. I want this recorded so my number and statistic won't be skewed to fit a certain narrative, but if Chief Hoffman is removed, it will greatly influence my decision to leave for another department. So thank you for listening.
Thank you. I greatly respect free speech rights, and I respect you guys coming in and taking your time. But I think we can safely assume it's a show of support for the chief. I don't think we need to hear everybody make comments. I'll allow one more if somebody still wants to say something.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask a question?
Okay, well, one.
Sure. I'd like to know how many officers are here. I mean, I could try to count, but my eyes are not that good. So if somebody could give me a total number of the people here supporting the chief. I'm a stat person, okay? So that's all I ask for. I could try to count. 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14? I'm talking about all employees, so I got 14, is that right? Okay.
But some people still couldn't make it, that's still support.
Okay, but thank you.
All right, go ahead.
How are you? I'm Officer Michael Ortiz. Just want to give you a brief background about myself. I was an officer with the NYPD for 10 years. Okay, during my time there, I had many commanding officers, both good and bad. One of the trainings that I was fortunate enough to go to there was credible leadership for law enforcement. Okay, it's very hard to get that training, and it basically deals with leaders that are good leaders, leaders that are bad leaders, and why good leaders are successful. Okay, so when it became time for me to choose an agency to go with here, I had other offers, most of which paid more. But I chose to work for Surfside Beach, and it's all because of Chief Hoffman. He's genuine, he's honest, and he's competent. He has created a work environment that allows us all to thrive and succeed. He's managed to put together a group that is really quite unique in my opinion. Everyone encourages each other to give our best effort, and this work environment is second to none in my opinion. Chief Hoffman knows that employees that enjoy coming to work perform better, and we enjoy coming to work and serving this community. And Chief Hoffman is a big part of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Like I said, I respect free speech rights, and I really respect all of you folks coming in, but I do also want to honor the time of everybody's here. I think we got the message. It's been duly noted, and I think we'll just proceed from here. But thank you again. With that, we're going to move into communications, and I'd like to start with the administrator's report. Mr. Vincent.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, good evening. First, Mayor Kraus and I met with Andy Wolf, who's the general manager of the Grand Palms Resort, and his management staff to discuss a proposed route of their shuttles, a drop-off location at the beachfront, and potential other drop-off locations. Mr. Wolf had indicated that there are approximately 30,000 check-ins a year at his resort, and actually more affluent visitors spending money in our town. We plan to have our communications director send them information regarding our scheduled events for 2024 and complete list of establishments for their patrons. Mr. Wolf met with the parking committee to work out a strategy for their patrons and the committee's concerns. And I think Mr. Jenkins got more information on that because he did attend that meeting. Secondly, the week of April the 8th will be a busy week for town council and staff with a budget retreat that's going to be held at the Holiday Inn in Surfside Beach, scheduled for April 8th all day, and a regular town council meeting on April 9th. Thirdly, John Adair and I had a meeting scheduled with Craig Donor, which is the owner of Perry's Bait and Tackle, which is a tenant on the pier. And we met to discuss the process of selling the fishing license and fees, and also town apparel. So what we're working on now is for our weekly fees for fishermen, there will be a different color armband. If that's standard fishing, if it's king fishing, then there will be a certain design on that band to indicate that they're king fishing and they paid for it. The weekly pass will look more like a business card that Perry's Bait and Tackle actually punch holes in it for the week. So after you get 7, you're done for your pass. And then your annual pass will basically be a laminated card with the dates on it as well to indicate when it was issued and when it would actually expire. And that's something that they would keep in their pocket. As far as the selling of town apparel, we'll try to work out a negotiation, which that'll come back before council. You know, if it's a 90-10 split or an 80-20 split, but we've done that before when the pier had been established. So we are working on that. And that may come before you on April the 9th meeting. As I've indicated before in our planning department, we're not fully staffed, but we've hired additional town staff members as far as a code of enforcement official that started May 18th. And I indicated that the previous month, a part-time building official had begun employment, and then we hired a permit technician in December. So the only vacancy is still the planning director position, and we have not received a single application in the last 3 weeks that qualify for that position. Fifth, on Monday, March 18th, Mayor Kraus, Tabitha, and I held a press conference to indicate and introduce the owners of Whistling Duck, which is Mike and Rebecca Wallace, with an official signing of the lease agreement. And they've indicated that to us that if everything goes well, they will begin operations in May, which is Memorial Weekend. And then lastly, I've been contacted by Jeremy Huffman, who is the owner of Gone Coastal Golf Carts. He wants to donate a golf cart to the events department. I plan to bring this up at the April 9th town council meeting so that we can put it on the agenda and have it officially accepted. Mayor.
Very good, thank you. Do we have any questions for Mr. Vincent?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Coleman?
for the director of planning, what is the problem, why we can't get someone?
Councilman Coleman, my theory is because of the requirements. It requires this position to be a CBO, which is a certified building official. And I come from the planning world back in the day, and planning and building are two separate entities. So if the council wishes to change that job description in chapter 2, it says that you have to vote to change it.
Now, at one time, did you try to change this?
Actually, I did, and I was called out on it, and it did require chapter 2.
Who pulled you out?
Well, it just, when we reviewed it and my HR looked at it, and he indicated that if I changed it, it probably needed council approval. So, and she was correct. But I did advertise for, I think, maybe 2 weeks without the CBO certification on there, but we still didn't get applications at that time. And I've been in contact with the Waccamaw Council of Government, and they're trying to assist us the best they can with planning items. But so far, we haven't had it.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Shawn?
The question I have is if we take away the certification requirement, we still have to pay someone to sign off on the paperwork, correct?
Yes, and we have those two people in place.
Already on,
Safe Built is a CBO. He does
Okay.
commercial and residential, and the part-time is also a CBO.
so if we go that route though, we shouldn't offer a top dollar if they don't have, if we're paying someone else to sign off the paperwork.
Well, we'll pay within the range of a director. Is what we'll do.
The director of planning.
Planning, correct.
Right, but we're still gonna have to pay more money for somebody else to sign the paperwork, so why would you hire somebody at a higher range or the top range if you still need another person to sign their paperwork off? So I just want that to be kept in mind. Because we were in that predicament before, they got paid, and then we had to bring somebody else in and we had to pay them to sign off the paperwork. So I think when we hire someone, we shouldn't give them top dollar if they don't have all the qualifications for that particular position. That's all I'm saying. Something we can discuss.
Okay. But we'll have a building inspector to sign off, correct?
We have a building inspector who is certified as a building official, and we have Safe Built to do our residential and commercial sign off.
Okay, I get what the distinction. All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Coleman?
and Mr. Vincent, you used to be in building or something, correct?
I was in planning.
Okay, you were in planning.
Yes, sir.
Is it normal to have a planning director be a CBO also, or is it usually that's not the way it happens?
Typically, it's two separate individuals.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Walls?
I have a question. I just need to clarify, Jerry, as I understand it from the job descriptions, if we decided to move the CBO off of that title, we need to change the language in some of the other job descriptions, don't we, as well? Because we have other employees within that department that are required to report to a CBO. I just wanted to make that clear because I want to make sure that we never have to have any of our town employees reporting to a third party
No, sir.
entity.
No, sir. Actually, PB&Z employees report to me at this time.
Okay, so it's not, I thought it was within certain job descriptions, as I've read them, that certain departments had to report to a CBO to accomplish their job requirements.
The job descriptions are not supervisors. The Safe Built CBO is a contract, private sector,
Right.
but the employees, if they have issues, they report to me.
Good.
At this time.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. King?
One of the reasons that we required the CBO for the director is department turnover history is immense. And when a builder is building a house and you tell him, well, you can't get an inspection for 3 weeks, he's gonna go ballistic. And that's why we've always, or as far as I know, we've required that the director also have a CBO so things don't fall by the wayside. And we've given people up to 2 years to get it. And I'm not opposed to that, but first of all, we need stability. And that, you want to talk about turnover, that department for 5 people, that's what it's approved for, is 5 people. The turnover has been horrific. And hopefully we can stabilize it. And I mean, that's what we're expecting, is get it stabilized. And I'm not in favor of removing that requirement all the way because of its backup. It's not something they do every day, but if it's needed, they're there available to do it. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Stamey?
on this CBO deal with the planning, would it not be worth our while to pay or try to pay a little bit more to get a planning with planning person with a CBO than it would be having a outside group and paying a administrator and a outside group. I mean, you know, you're double paying people, and we've been doing it for many years. And so what you're saying now is hire a director to that department, pay them at top dollar, as Ms. Fallon said, then turn right around and pay an outside source to do what the director is supposed to be doing. Would it not be better to raise the salary and try to get somebody to do it than it would be to pay two different individuals?
I believe that right now, we have a very competitive pay established for that position. In talking to the Council of Government, we were discussing maybe just hire a planner, a town planner, instead of a planning director. Because a planner can handle all of the planning items for the planning commission. And have them just report under the administration. If we can't get a planning director individual to apply for this job.
Well, I'm sure that at this time, this isn't probably the time to discuss it, but I'm sort of with Mr. Kinkin. I'm not on the board of taking that off of the director at this time. There ought to be some other alternatives that we could try to persuade people to get in on this.
And I would say this, Mr. Stamey, I completely understand why you had the requirement when you had it, because there was a lot of turnover. But now that you got Safefield as your CBO, now we've got a part-time building official that has the certified CBO. We're in a better place than we were a year or two ago.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Vincent? I have one. What's the impact on our CRS rating at this point?
I have contacted the Council of Government because the CRS, which is the community rating system, needs to be updated every day, every week, every month. Just as far as the requirements and check the checklist and what we have to do and submit on an annual basis. So email has not been replied to, but I have contacted them to see what we can do, perhaps on a contract basis, to keep that up to date. Because that's important.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Kreckler.
since you brought that one up, CRS is basically handled by FEMA. Can't FEMA tell us what we need to do and go from there? I mean, really, Council of Governments is basically like us. They have a lot of turnover too. Not as much as we do, but they have a lot of turnover. So they don't really have anybody that has tenure and really knows what's going on either, in my opinion.
Well, once I receive the information back from the COG and the checklist and what's required to submit this annual report, then I'll discuss that with council.
Any other questions? I guess I'm just gonna ask if you can put together something for April 9th. I think that would be good. All right, thank you. We are now moving on to PIO and events. Ms. Tabitha Mull.
Good evening, everyone. Hope you're having a lovely evening. All right, so under communications, surfsidebeach.org and visit surfsidebeach.org continue to get their updates pretty much on the daily now. So that's good. We're moving pretty quickly. The archive page that we were putting together the past 8 years, that is now in process. So we just kicked that into gear. So hopefully that will save us some time in the end and not be so long as we thought it was going to be, right? Okay, so that's in process. Again, we continue our partnership with the Chamber of Commerce. Thank you, Karen. And we have a great partnership with them, continuing our tourism advertisements, our social media, our radio advertisements, for the Myrtle Beach Area Chambership Partnership. Also, the Peer Campaign continues. We've got a meeting scheduled next week for what's next on that particular campaign. It's going to be pretty exciting from what iHeart and Chamber and I have all discussed, so I'm really excited about that. As you all know, the pier is open. We had a super fabulous surprise for everybody when the pier opened on the 60th birthday celebration. Just wanted you to know that particular reel, if you haven't seen it on Facebook, has hit 73,000 plays and has created 600 new followers. So that was pretty awesome. And the result of that was a 338% increase of post engagement. So pretty excited that that pier is open. We are also working on the partnership with the Whistling, not with the Whistling Duck, the partnership with Kim at the library. We are trying to make a board that's solely Surfside Beach instead of just this flat pad that they have right now. So I'm gonna go down and talk to her, look at the space, see what we can come up with for a per se Surfside Beach community corner. So we're gonna try to make something happen with that. And then as far as tourism is concerned, so speaking with the chamber, as I told you before, and I'm gonna keep this very short, I promise. But so sampling the impact of tourism as it relates to heads and beds, et cetera, and business. That is a very broad view of the Grand Strand. So in order for us to narrow that focus and see what that impact looks like for our little 2 square mile town, I gathered up 2 of the hotels here in town, and we are gonna work on a partnership that will be able to tell me if we're up or down depending on what's the attraction to the town. So I'm looking forward to that partnership. And they are great to work with, so there you go. So that sums up communication. We'll move into events. The barbecue festival and the Anything But Barbecue Festival has been rescheduled for the 3rd and the 4th of May. So we are excited about that. We had a reception for our new fire chief, David Nelson, on Monday, March 11th. That went pretty well, so that was fun. The 60th birthday, of course, had a great turnout and, like I said, a great big surprise. And that, I will say again, the fire department helped a lot with that, with the hot dogs and cooking and stuff like that. So it was pretty awesome to have them there. The annual Children's Fair, of course, is this Saturday. So we'll have the kiddos with a children's fair, which is a trackless train, an Easter egg hunt, bounce houses, and all the fun things for them to do. And I'm happy to report that it's going to be sunny and 73 degrees. So thank you. And then we will go into the Easter sunrise service, which is Sunday, of course, March 31st, 6:45 a.m. And again, that is organized by the First Baptist Church of Surfside Beach. And we're looking forward to that. So with that also being said, I just wanted to do a quick shout out. So I know Memorial Day is coming up, and then soon Veterans Day will be here, So I did a post today just to remind everybody that our veterans plaques, if they want to be purchased, how to do that, on surfsidebeach.org. So we can go from there.
All right.
Cool.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Are there any questions for Ms. Moll?
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Sean?
quick question about the sunrise service. The parking, we can park at the pier till 8 o'clock.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
From 6 p.m. to 8 a.m., it's free.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
Of course.
Well, and hopefully we won't be down there at 8:05 to
Right.
distract us.
Good Lord.
Enforcement will be.
Yeah.
We might have to talk to Aaron. Okay, are there any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna move into the fire report. Chief Nelson?
Good evening. I would like to thank you for the opportunity to serve the great town of Surfside. In my first week, I was lucky enough to witness the 60th birthday of Surfside, as well as the opening of the pier, and that was pretty exciting. I was blessed to be warmly welcomed by a lot of the citizens, and I greatly appreciate that. We've met with Administrator Vincent during my first week to discuss moving forward with the hiring of the 3 full-time firefighters, and shortly we will be advertising for those 3. I spoke with the ISO coordinator, Robert Bond, who issues the public protection classification number.
As you may or may not know, 1 is the best score, with 10 being the worst score. We were recently downgraded from a 1 to a 2. I'm reviewing the report, and one of the issues was staffing, getting apparatus out. I've met with most of the council people and the mayor and started explaining a lot of what's going on with that. We are going to be able to utilize Scipio Lane, Station 20, as an engine to get that out. We'll still need to be able to get our aerial truck out and our engine to be able to do that as far as getting the ISO scores and points. Soxty, unfortunately, is 5.5 miles and it has to be within a 5-mile radius. We're looking at next year's budget to see if we would be able to add 4 more firefighters. The goal is to have a driver operator for that aerial and a full-time fire inspector that is also a firefighter. With additional staffing, the full-time fire inspector will be able to assist with fire inspections in the town, and during the structure fire would be able to come to the scene and assist with the structure fire. This would give us additional points to assist with the public protection classification. And I'm unsure at this point if we will be given enough to get back to a 1, so we would have to review that a little bit further as it goes. However, 2 is still a good score, and in comparison, Horry County Fire Rescue is going to be a 3 current. So we still are better than they are at this time. This also assists the fire inspector with being able to talk with him. He's very overwhelmed with a lot of the businesses that he has to inspect. Currently, we inspect roughly 750 businesses on a yearly basis. We try to get to those in an every 2-year period. The way we're handling it now, we can't get to it. We can only get to it in a 3-year period. Meaning we hit our high occupancies and our high hazard zones and stuff first, and then we hit our medium ones later on. By bringing in that second fire inspector, that would be a way that we could get through those in an early time period to get that handled. When you talk about fire inspections, that brings on our tax revenue. When we talk about businesses and stuff like that, we don't want them to have a fire and take the opportunity that they might leave somewhere else if the place was burned to the ground. If we can catch those previously before that, we prevent the fire, and that's what we want to do. With the additional resources that we propose, we hope that we can apply and be awarded a SAFER grant, which would pay for 35% of the 4 salaries in the first 2 years, and the third year would pay for 65%. The 4th year, we would be on our own. To give you an idea of the savings and cost, the cost to hire 4 firefighters annually would be $194,232.83. We would receive the grant for the first 2 years. The federal government would pay 35% of their salaries. This would be a reduction of $67,000 roughly. The first 2 years would cost the town $126,251 for the 4 firefighters. The third year, we would save 65%, which is $126,251. So the cost of the 4 firefighters for that third year would be $67,981. The 4th year, the town would have to pay the entire salary. The cost of the grant writer receives 5% of the cost for that grant. The entire savings of the 3 years are $262,214. The 5%, the grant writer would charge 5% if we were awarded the grant on top of the $5,000, which comes out to $13,110.72, with the savings to the town of $244,113.60 in a 3-year period, including the initial $5,000 for the writing of the grant. However, before the grant writer, he is willing to look over our past grant that we were not awarded, and this is what I would like to move forward with, is have him review the past grant that we had and see why we didn't get it to begin with before we spend any money whatsoever looking into it. See if it's a feasible cause that we can do before doing that. If it is feasible and he feels it's something he can do, he's the type of guy that's going to tell you, yes, you can get it, no, you can't get it. He's more than willing to go ahead and write it if we can't get it, but it makes no sense to move forward with that. I would like to be able to go ahead and get that for him and get the ball rolling. We're getting into a short window where we have roughly a month left before we can not be able to put in for the SAFER grant anymore. It's only open for a certain period. I think it just opened today, actually, and it has roughly 3 weeks that we have to get all that information into them. And if we don't get it in, then we have to wait until next year before that can happen. However, the grant usually is not awarded till later in the beginning or end of this year. So it would be right around November time that we would hear about it. So we would be getting some type of award notification probably in January. So if we couldn't even put it in for this year's budget, it might be something we could put in for next year's budget and run that way with it. We recently hosted a seatbelt class that was successful in educating our first responders in the proper installation of child seats and educating new parents on how to install child seats. This helps to bring forth the town's spirit of the family beach, I feel. We also are currently in the process of hosting a Fire Officer 1 class, which helps to educate our officers on the leading of the departments and their shifts. For the February month, we ran 57 calls. From last year, we ran 58, so 1 down. EMS, we ran 37. We ran a total of 54 calls in our town and 40 out of it. And during the inspection process, we had inspected a total of 52 for the month. Lastly, on another note, it is with sadness and gratitude for Deputy Chief Larry Carter that he has announced his resignation and his retirement. Deputy Chief Carter has dedicated his service to the town of Surfside and kept the department afloat during several leadership gaps. Deputy Chief Carter stepped up to the plate and led with compassion and courage for the citizens and firefighters of Surfside. Deputy Chief Carter has dedicated 12 years of service to Surfside, 11 as a career member and 1 as a volunteer, serving in multiple positions throughout the department. Deputy Chief Carter is the longest serving member currently. As well, he has dedicated his success to the great team of employees, citizens, businesses, and visitors of Surfside. Deputy Chief Carter has chosen June 1st, 2024 as his effective retirement date. The fire department wishes Deputy Chief Carter nothing but a successful endeavor in his retirement and many years of rest and relaxation for a well-deserved member of the department.
Thank you, Chief. Do we have any questions for Chief Nelson?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Kincaid?
Chief, I asked you yesterday, so I haven't given you much notice. Have you been able to find out if,
Merle's Inlet.
Garden City,
Same.
number 2?
Yep, they are within a 2.7 mile radius. I have to find out if they have, what apparatus they have in that area.
Okay. I don't think they have a ladder, but.
If they don't, that's not gonna help us with it.
Okay.
We need a ladder.
Okay.
That was my. The Garden City. Yeah.
Anything else?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Stanley?
yeah, you talked about this, safe grant again. Why do we need to go out and hunt somebody? Can you not handle that part of it? Our fire chief in the original past is done, excuse me, in the past has done that. So that ain't in your area of writing or looking into writing a grant?
Safer grants and grants are not what a fire chief is, done. I have written several safer grants, or not safer grants, AFG grants, assistance firefighter grants. I have not written a successful safer grant. And when you're writing that grant, you're talking, the whole United States is putting in for this grant. So it's a very competitive grant, and you want to make sure that whoever's writing that grant, that you're going to be putting that stuff in, can get it. You know, we can write it, but ultimately, we're going to need that funding. I can put it in, we can put it in 5-10 times, and we might not get it. By having somebody that does that for a living, they know the little nicks that you need to put to get those points that are going to get you that grant.
So you think a grant writer would get us these, if, instead of you writing it, you think the grant writer would get it?
I do. And the gentleman that I work with, he'll tell you up front whether he feels he'll tell you if it's worth putting in for it. He's not going to tell you. That's one reason I was turned on to him by multiple chiefs where I was at before, that they said, the nice thing is he'll look at it, radios, for instance. We're looking at radios currently. We were looking at radios up there. Radios have to be roughly 18 to 20 years old. I argued with him. I'm like, I need radios. You know, we don't have cell phones that are 20 years old. We exchange them out every 5 years. That's just the way it is. But those are the type of things he's going to be able to catch and tell you before you put in for it, and you're wasting your time and resources. There's a lot that goes into writing a grant. You have to put in the demographics of the city, where you're helping, what's assisting. You want to try to make it sound like that you're helping multiple units versus just one that helps out. There's a lot of work that really goes into putting a grant together. It's roughly 6 to 7 pages that you do. I have had a couple successful ones. I've never had a safer grant one.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Kincaid?
Chief, you were asking about money. It's too early for us to look at this from money standpoint. But I think it'd be, if you can, at least get your grant writer to look and see whether it's even worth their time. I mean, we're not even gonna find numbers until April 8th. And I know where we stand as of last year, or this current year, so, I think all we can offer you right now is encouragement to at least get him to look at it, and then it come back at the next meeting, and that's up to the administrator. But the next meeting will be the first time we can really talk about whether we're gonna even have the money.
And I understand that. Unfortunately, there's that 3-week window. If we don't put in for it, we're not getting it. We'll have to wait till next year to put in for that 3-week window again, and we're behind the 8 ball. I'm not saying, I totally understand. We've had this conversation. I agree with what you're saying. I understand.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Kreckloff.
I'd just like to mention that today there was 3 of us on council that went to Congressman Fry's get together to tell us how to get grants and whatnot. And basically, his office and some of the other federal offices have offered to do the SAFER grant for free. Now, I'm pretty sure we wouldn't be able to get it done now because we can't give them any information and meet the window, but I'm just saying that it has been, and they do it all the time. So,
I'd be more than happy to hear who the gentleman is. I've never heard that before, but I would be more than happy to
the
reach out.
mayor probably had more information. He was taking better notes than I was.
There were
At least you're awake.
several departments that were offering that. I'd have to go back and look and see who was specifically offering the help with the SAFER grants. But I'll just echo and continue Mr. Kreckloff's comments. They did make it clear that there is an art to that, and that you have to know what you're doing. So if we need help, we need help. So free help is better than paid help.
Absolutely.
So I'm willing to look at that. Since I'm going, I'm going to ask a question here. Continuing with the SAFER grant part, you said you'd like to do this. I mean, you're not asking, you're just going to do it, right?
Well, I'm gonna have him review our last one and see what's that, but I can't move forward with having him write a grant or anything else without your permission.
Okay, so yeah, you're going to ask, you'll need.
Correct. Yeah, I don't think there's an issue with him looking at it and saying, yes, I think that I could get you the grant, or no, I think that you guys are good, and that's where we're at. But I think we're good with moving forward with that part of it.
And then I have one other follow-up. Can you just elucidate a little bit more on the ISO 1 versus 2? What does that really mean to this town?
So anything above a 3, so 3, 2, and 1 affects businesses. Anything from 4 down is residentials. And also, it doesn't guarantee that the insurance company has to honor that program. It's something that it's kind of like a guideline for how that they're gonna rate your insurance. They wanna know that there's a certain amount of hydrants within a certain amount of radius, that this fire station's there, how many people it does, what's the training level it does, communication. This is what all goes into the public protection class with ISO to get that. So 2 really is not a bad ISO. Where I came from, we were a 3 before. The larger you get, it becomes extremely more difficult to get a 1. Myrtle Beach, when I was down here roughly 9 years ago, got rid of property out of their first 2 so they could get to 1. That's how they went about doing it. They turned over properties to Horry County to have them take over that so they could get to 1. That's how they did it. It's a very difficult process to get a 1, and I know a lot of fire chiefs said, if I can't get a solid 1, I don't really want to shoot for this 1, because the same thing that happened to us. We had a low 1, we came in, were evaluated, we got dropped down to 2, and then everybody's like, whoa, what's going on? So that's what really it is. 3, 2, and 1 are all affecting businesses and how they get their insurance. 4 and below affect residentials.
All right, thank you. Are there any other questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Coleman?
so in your opinion, we need firefighters.
I do think we need some firefighters.
And through the SAFER grant, it's gonna help a lot.
If we're awarded it, correct, yeah.
Now, you said if we go to a 4, it possibly will affect residential properties, correct?
If we went to a 4, yes, yes.
And it's possible that if we don't have enough firefighters, it could go to a 4.
Without reviewing the ISO itself in front of me, I couldn't tell you how low we would go or anything.
Right, but it's possible.
Everything's possible.
So we're either paying one way or the other.
Correct.
You're gonna pay in your homeowner's insurance or whatever, right? So, all right, that's what I'm trying to get across. That we're either gonna put firefighters on, or we might have to pay. We're gonna pay for firefighters, or we have to pay through insurance rates. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Stamey?
I'd like to follow up on what Harriet's just asked me. So you're telling me if we don't add 8 new firemen, we're gonna fall below before?
No, I never said that.
Well, I mean, that's just what Mr. Coleman just asked.
No, what he suggested was, is there a possibility that we would drop to 4? I said, without looking at the ISO rating, I couldn't give you an answer to that, because I'm still in the process of looking at that.
So we.
I would imagine that we would stay a high 2, where we are now.
If we don't even hire the extra 4 that you want, we're gonna stay probably at a high 2.
We would probably, without looking at the ISO to tell you completely where we're at, we would stay at a 2, but however, there's options that the medic unit might move out, and if that moves out, those people are counted, and we would lose our rating down, I would say lower to probably a 3. But without looking at it, I can't give you I'm just making guesses. Hopefully next time I can give you a more solid answer for you.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Coleman?
and is it true that there is a room, well, that is possibility that ambulance might be taken out when they build the fire station in Prestwick?
I have heard that there's a possibility that they're building a Prestwick station, but I don't know anything. I don't work for them, so I couldn't tell you.
I thought you might have heard it in a chief's meeting or.
No, I did not hear anything. No. I've heard the rumors that just everybody else has.
Anything else for Chief Nelson? All right, well, thanks for the comprehensive report. We're going to move on now to Public Works, Director Adair.
Good evening, Mayor and Council and citizens. Public Works report for February. Our summer service exemption letters will be going out April 1st, and that will determine who's exempt from the summer rollout program, which will begin in the middle of May. Our March has come up sanitation wise, we're up about 7.5% in February in our commercial traffic. That's our condos and our businesses, and that's a good economic sign. I would hang my hat on that. The garbage doesn't lie. In February, we collected 453 tons of solid waste, 400 tons of mixed, 700 tons of yard debris, and 376 tons of recyclables. On the Streets and Drainage Division, our crews continue to inspect and maintain drainage ways throughout the town for capacity and function. Ditches and catch basins are being cleaned, and that maintenance program for the off-season is coming to an end soon. Our pier area beach access ramp shower system is being rehabilitated. This should be completed in the next couple of weeks by early April. Our Highway 17 beds have been all edged and stabilized with pine straw. And the bids for the next round of road resurfacing will be opened on April 2nd. I have received funding of $650,000 to pay for most of that from the County Transportation Commission. In our grounds division, our crews have been participating in training to back up pier employees on the pier mechanical and fire controls. A new play structure has been installed in Old Children's Park. About 62% of that has been paid for by a park grant. New banners to replace the winter banners will arrive. Actually, they just arrived. They'll be put up by next week. Our Fuller Park restroom is scheduled to arrive on site April 4th, and it will take a couple of weeks after that to get it up and running. In a pier, our second employee started on the 25th of this week, on Monday, on the 25th of March. The first employee started on the 18th. They're all being educated on their operational duties and their schedule. That's all being developed. Two good guys, I should add. Also in the pier, the conduits for the camera system is complete. I inspected the installation with HTC today, our camera installer, and they're very pleased with the conduit installation, and they are on track for camera installation in a 3 to 4 week time period from now. And again, for those of you who don't remember, there will be one camera that's going to be a panning camera. It's going to be installed on the shade structure, and people will be able to view that online on our website. Under our fleet maintenance division, in February, our mechanics completed 75 repairs on town vehicles and equipment. Additionally, 23 vehicles receive preventive maintenance. If anybody has any particular questions, I'd be happy to answer them at this time.
I'm just gonna say thanks for taking care of the banners. Ms. Mull and I will be happy when the spring summer go up. We've both gotten, comments on those. Thank you. Is there any other questions for Mr. Adair?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Stamey?
a little lighthearted, John. You didn't stick your finger up at your wife, did you?
No, just a little additional work to a previous surgery on my finger. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Walls?
I just had one question that was raised to me, and I really didn't know a clear answer. Have we posted anywhere on the pier that people are likely to be included in a video that may go on the internet? I don't know. Does that encroach on any privacy things?
I'll look into it, but I don't think so.
I don't know if we have to note
Any public space you don't have an expectation of privacy.
Thank you.
In essence, that's why you have police
That's
cameras.
what I
on the
said,
court.
but they came back at me, so I wasn't
Yeah.
sure, so I thought.
Yeah, we have 70 some odd police cameras out there that can pick you up also. I don't see the
You keep going.
I really don't see the difference.
Okay, thank you.
But I'll look into it. I never asked the question.
Appreciate it.
Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Shaw?
and we were at the peer committee meeting, and you were there, but I don't know when you left and when I left. It was a little crazy that morning. I had a couple of different meetings. But you had mentioned, or somebody mentioned at the time about the dogs. Is there a problem with the dogs on the pier? Are they on leashes, not on leashes, or?
Yeah, I don't think the unleashed is the problem at the moment.
Okay.
The peer rules that were established and approved by council from the peer committee indicate that service dogs only will be allowed on the pier. What the employees are finding is that a lot of people are bringing the dogs up on the pier just because they happen to have the dogs with them. The ones that you do address and say it's for service dogs, oh, it is a service dog. So I anticipate as time goes on, we're gonna have to clarify whether we're gonna allow dogs or not allow dogs. Because I think just service dogs is just a red herring, and people are just gonna bring the dogs up there because we're not gonna, ask for medical documentation. So it's a potential future problem. Right now it isn't, but it could be. Once fishing starts and things get real busy up there, it could be a problem if there's 100 dogs on the pier.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Anything else for Director Adair? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
All right, we're gonna move on to the police report. Chief Hoffman.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council, and citizens. I have a report for you for the month of February for the police department. February of this year, we had again, another 34.13% increase in calls for service from February of last year. Arrest and citation data was pretty stable, with just a 0.28% decrease in that activity. A couple personnel actions. We hired police officer Alan Sharp. He joined the department as a currently certified Class 1 officer. We were fortunate enough to have the opportunity to promote Corporal Robbie Pinto to the rank of police sergeant. And also to replace him, we promoted Patrolman First Class Sato Corman to the rank of police corporal. So they are doing a great job of assuming their new responsibilities in the police department. As a summary of the performance for the month of February, the police department answered 1,340 calls for service, resulting in 34 custodial arrests, 293 uniform traffic citations, and 17 uniform summonses. There were 7 criminal arrest warrants issued. 2 of those were related to drug distribution or possession. And your officers transported 34 prisoners to J. Reuben Long Detention Center. Also, your officers issued 424 written warnings in lieu of uniform traffic citations. Victim advocacy staff have attempted to contact 88 complainants to conduct customer service surveys. They made contact with 42 people. All the contacted individuals stated that the officers were prompt and professional. 7 of the complainants responded that their issue was not resolved. I did look at those individual complaints. Some things come up that we just can't solve. But I didn't see anything that jumped out that needed follow-up. A couple of notable events. The police department was able to deploy 3 new patrol vehicles in the month of February. These vehicles were actually purchased in July. it took that long to get them upfitted with supply chain delays. So we just got those 3 vehicles deployed and all were issued to officers as take-home cars. We did a little social media to show that off. Police department hosted a town employee chili cook-off to engage town employees and build some camaraderie. Congratulations to Deputy Fire Chief Larry Carter for having the winning chili. Thanks to our evidence custodian, Rose Haddock. I think I saw her. She's still here. Good job. That was her idea to put that together. She's a fairly new employee with the town, but comes with a lot of energy and does great things to keep morale up. Also, thank you to Tabitha and Eileen for helping to put that together. And we had a lot of fun with it. So thank you. Also, Ms. Mayor, yours wasn't too bad either. It was my pick, just to let you know. I didn't know it was yours. So that is the summary of activity for the month of February. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions for the chief?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Kinkin?
Chief, we have several abandoned buildings in town. Does that require more of your time or your officers' time than occupied buildings?
Not necessarily. I assume you mean commercial buildings, sir?
Well, not necessarily. All of them are not commercial. We have some that, I think there's 2 houses that doesn't have electricity.
Right.
So they're abandoned.
Right.
And we have several on the, and I didn't know if y'all had to spend more time on those versus an occupied building.
Not necessarily. I think
Okay.
officers try to keep a close eye on everything, but as the planning, building, and zoning department gets staffed up, we look forward to continuing to work with them to help address any of those issues
Okay.
as far as getting those.
I should have
in
asked
compliance.
you that yesterday.
That's okay.
Anything else? I'm just gonna say I wasn't there. I was out of town for the chili, so I couldn't sell it.
Yeah. That was good. Okay.
Might have made it good.
All right. Thank you, Chief. Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna move on to the planning, building, and zoning department, and we're gonna have Administrator Vincent.
Yes,
Again.
Mr. Mayor and Council, I've given you the status on filling vacancies within the planning department, but if you look at the charts, you'll see the number of permits increased from 117 to 138 in 2024 for February. The fees have also increased from 14,000 in 2023 to just under 26,000. Number of inspections per year, 103 in 2023 to 137 in 2024. So the inspections are increasing with our new employees. And then you'll see at the last table, the number of tree inspections. We've caught up on our tree inspections. So the last report was in February was 11, and now we're up to 36 in 2022.
Do we have any other questions for Administrator Vincent? I think we'll just kind of wait and see if we can come up with a plan for the planning director, and there's probably not a whole lot of questions until then, I think. All right. We are now going to move on to the finance report. Director Gruber.
Good evening. So I'm going to go over the funds here. The general fund through January had 5.2 million in revenue and 4.96 million in expenses. The property tax collections at the end of January were 3.6 million, which was 98% of the budgeted amount. The special revenue funds, which are your accommodations tax, hospitality, and local aid tax, we had a collections of 1.6 million in hospitality and 368,000 in local aid tax. I noticed I actually left a sentence in here from last month, but second quarter aid tax payment came in January and it was 66.8 thousand. Out of that is the 70 gets held back for the main proviso. So technically our payment was 136. They held back the 7. We should be seeing the next quarter in April. And so to date we have 672,000 in accommodations tax. On their capital projects fund, we have 95,000 in road fees through January In stormwater, we have collected 452,000, and they continue to work on the second phase of the drainage project. The enterprise funds are the pier and the sanitation. On the pier fund, I have attached the estimated pier reconstruction costs. It hasn't really changed much in the past month. There were a couple small bills for Collins and S&E. So that is the only change there. Sanitation, the revenues were 938,000 and our expenditures were only at 787 through January. And parking, we have collected 310,000 and expenditures were 165 through January. I have again added for your information the where we are at in the investment pool, and the month of January, our interest rate was 5.61%. And obviously a lot of my time these past month has been taken up doing budget. So that's the main focus right now is budget, and then hopefully next month's report I can have you February and March. I just have to have more hours in the day.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Kinkin, are you?
I'm done.
Okay. Mr. Kinkin.
I have a question. We're one of the few towns that post our checkbook. People can go online and they can look and see who got checks. Is it possible to put some notation on there? I'll give you an example. And I can't remember what month, but somebody asked me about a $1,000 check to Golden Egg. And when I told him it was to pay for our breakfasts, he went through the roof. So when I said, no, now that you calm down a little bit, that was for Santa, breakfast for Santa.
Okay.
And I mean, you just see Golden Egg, $1,000, and it does create questions. Not every check. I don't know whether it's can be done or not. I just thought I'd throw that out.
I'll see what we can do.
Because we have a lot of
My
people,
AP
a lot of people in town look at that.
Yeah.
And I get questions, and I can't always answer them. Some I can, some I can't. So anyway, I thought I'd throw that out.
Any other questions for Director Gruber? All right, thank you very much. Okay, that concludes our director's reports. We're going to move on to we don't have any discussion items, so item 8, business. We're going to start with fishing pier hours. Director Adair.
Good evening again. On June 13th, 2023, some peer committee recommendations came to council. Among them were fishing fee recommendations, along with children under 12 free with a paying adult. Also in those recommendations were fishing fees, were operating hours, I should say, I'm sorry, and certain discounts potentially for certain classes of people. According to the minutes, which I have to get some signage prepared and agreements with Perry's Bait and Tackle. According to the minutes, the motion that was made was to accept the recommendations for the fishing fees and the under 12 free with the paying adult. But the remainder of the recommendations, to the best of my knowledge, were not addressed or approved by council at the time. And that would be the 2024 operating hours, which will go to 6 a.m. to 1 a.m. as of April to September. Also, a 50% discount for full-time residents, veterans, first responders, guests with autism, and then it says children under 12, although that was covered in the paying adults free. But these couple of items need to be addressed by council so we can move forward with the plan, and that's why I've asked to be on the agenda to present this tonight. If there's been any thought of approving these or just stay with the hours that we have, and any discounts you want to implement the ones that were recommended, or different ones, or none.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Stanley,
personally, I'd like to stay with what we recommended on the discounts, just for the 12 and under with the paid adults free. The operating hours, I was under the impression that that was already approved from 7 to 11. I didn't know that they were going to have a different time from October. I didn't realize that we had a different time set up at that time when we voted this.
Yeah, back in May, about a month before that meeting, I was just referencing.
But we didn't, we voted on 7 to 11 is
Yeah,
what we voted
for
on.
23. You voted in May, you guys voted for the hours for the 23 seats, which never happened.
Right.
And then there was a proposal for the 24 hours, which was never really voted on. So we started off doing the 7 to 11, but if we're gonna expand that or leave it the same, we need to come to a decision on that.
Well, I'm open for any other council person to recommend the hours, but I am still for the,
7 to 11.
well, not necessarily 7 to 11, the children under 12 for free. I am still on board with that, and nobody else.
So we need to make a motion.
Well,
Yeah, before we discuss it, we'll have to, I'm assuming.
okay, I just wanted to ask questions before I just want to clarify a couple things. So I'm going to ask a question. The peer committee met yesterday, right? Was this discussed at all with them?
They asked me what I was gonna present tonight, and I told them, and there was no further discussion.
So they're not interested in, or they didn't indicate
They
any
didn't
interest
indicate
in making okay.
Another.
All right, I just wanted to clarify that. Do we need any other clarifying questions before we make a motion?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Coleman?
with the hours being 6 AM to 1 AM, do you have enough staff to do that? The other one, you'd only have to need 2 people. Now you're gonna have to need 2.5 people.
Well, we wouldn't be able to staff it in the middle. Basically, right now I have the 2 shifts kind of me touching in the middle, the 2 different employees, and I would have to separate them. I'd have to have one work 6 to maybe 3 and one work like 5 to, or 4 to 1. There'd be like a gap in the middle with nobody there.
And what do you do on weekends?
Same thing.
But you have steady people who work there.
Yes.
So you have 7 days, they only work 5 days, right?
Yeah, so it's 10 shifts with the 2 people, and then the remaining 4 weekdays, mornings, we'll open up with the grounds department. And that's how we have to do it, unless we have another person. We were approved for 2, that's all we hired.
All right, I'm going to ask for a motion now.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Kinkin?
I move that we accept the hours of operation from 7 AM to 11 PM from October through March, 6 AM to 1 AM, April through September, 2024.
I'll second the motion.
All right, so we have a motion of the operating hours and the seconded, 7 to 11 in the off-season, October to March, 6 to 1, April through September. And we're not going to touch the discounts in this motion at this point.
Correct.
All right. Is there any discussion?
I know some of the fishermen would rather it be open all night.
And
I know law enforcement does not want it open all night because there is issues that go on that didn't go on 60 years ago when I first came down here.
And I do remember that in the peer committee. Yeah, the 6 AM to 1 AM is specifically to accommodate fishermen, correct? And that's.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think we got that many people trying to get on otherwise. Anything else that we want to ask about?
So we're not going to.
Mr. Stanley?
Excuse me.
That's all right.
So we're not going to put in for the children under 12, keep that as it is, or do we have to make a motion?
We
for that?
can make a separate motion at that point. Mr. Kinkin's motion was just for the hours.
Just for the hours.
And I think that was already, that's part of what was approved, actually, was the children under 12 for free, but all the discounts weren't. So I think that's gonna be kind of a given.
Well, I'll ask
Yeah,
you
you might as well
to
put it
make
in
a
there,
motion,
yeah.
but we'll stick with this at this point, so. Any other comments, discussion, debate on the hours?
And please specify when in September, the whole month of September?
The way this is written, I would interpret this as April 1st to September 30th.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. All right, Ms. Medina?
Ms. Fallon,
No.
Mr. Kinkin,
Yes.
Mr. Coleman,
Yes.
Mr. Krecklo,
Yes.
Mr. Stamey,
Yes.
Mr. Walls,
Yes.
Mayor Kraus.
Yes. Motion carries 6-1. All right, so now we have the discount issue. If anybody wants to make a motion, or if we're just gonna leave it that way, that's fine too. So I'll ask if there's any motion to change the discount rates, the policy.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Kinkin?
I don't want to make a motion. I would like to ask the peer committee to look into what's being done at other piers and bring this back up at a later time. I know the pier's open, but I'd like to know what other piers are doing. And frankly, they do better research than anybody on this council.
I recall. Okay. Yeah, I will take that back. I'll take that assignment on. Any other comments? All right, then I think we've concluded this item.
All right.
Thank you, Director Adair.
That's what we'll do, man. Thank you.
All right, we are now moving on to 8B, Parking Committee recommendations. Mr. White?
Good evening. I just have a decision paper I want to talk about. The parking committee, for the parking committee recommendation, it is to make arrangements to allow business employees the ability to park near the working environment. The facts are, the parking, we actually met on March 18th and we made a motion, and the motion was made to, in the meeting, to introduce the selling of 16 spaces to business owners at $300 per space. Some business owners on the pier and other businesses have expressed an interest in purchasing parking spaces for their employees. This would ensure that that their employees would not be late to work and stuff like that looking for parking spaces. The parking committee suggested the gravel lot on Surfside Drive. The suggested price would be $300 again, as I said earlier. The new sign, I did a little more research, and a new sign would cost about $25 to $30 per sign. This equates to about a one-time cost of around $400. One time. And then next year we go through this again. So what we're looking for, we are looking for the council to approve these recommendations so that the business employees have a designated parking area.
All right, I think we should just go right to the motion, because it's gonna be a lot of back and forth, I think, so. Can I have a motion on this? Mr. Kinkin?
I make a motion that we approve selling 16 spaces to the business owners at $300 per space in the gravel lot on Surfside Drive.
Second. All right, we have a motion and a second. Just to clarify, 16 spaces in the gravel lot, $300 per space per year, and I think that's it, yeah. Okay, any comments, discussion?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Kinkin?
The committee looked at this last year and it was approved by the committee. But when it came to council, it failed on a 4-3 vote. I only know why one of the persons, I know exactly why one person voted against it. It's because he thought the town would make more money as a parking space than selling the space. And that's very true. Last year, that parking lot made a little over $14,400, and there's 32 spaces. The math is roughly $400 per space. But this is a service to our business owners. Drippy's wanted 4 spaces, and the reason he wanted them is because he hires young ladies. They finishing up at 11, or I don't know what time they're going, probably in the summer, 11 o'clock at night. And he wants them to be able to walk as a group out to their car, not go across this way and that way and every other direction, as a group for safety reasons too. Perry's wanted 2. He said his morning guys will probably park on Seaside Drive, but the afternoon guys could drive around for a half hour or more trying to find a place to park. He said for the simplicity of them pulling into a parking or a designated parking space is worth it to him. 4 others were Neil and Pam's wanted for, and that's so his employees would have a place to park instead of using his parking lot. He would rather pay for him to park somewhere else and let his visitors use his parking lot. So those are the 10 that we sold. We didn't approach, we did not get any response from, lack of a better word, petting zoo. They did not come back and say, we want any, we don't want any, go away. They just did not respond at all. But we have 2 more businesses going on the pier, and so we feel like 16, even last year we felt like 16 was enough. We don't know, but we got to start somewhere if we want to do it. And I'll say this again, it will cost the town some money. That parking lot, while it's not used a lot, it will be used because the pier's there. I think there'll be a lot of overflow into that parking lot. But I think as a service to our businesses, we need to consider it.
Ms. Shawn?
I think we should offer this to these business. Number one is the safety. I think safety should come first before money. I truly believe that. You got these, yeah, we want to encourage young people to work, and we want to make sure they get back and forth to work on a safety fee. To me, that's worth the extra money you would make on a parking spot. And just because I saw people's eyes, like when he said petting zoo, I didn't know this either, but apparently they call the 3 restaurants, because they're all animals, the zoo. So I just learned that recently. I don't know what planet I've been on, but I've been here 7 years. So that's the zoo, just in case nobody else knew. But safety first.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Walls.
Okay, I just wanted to say, I support this, mainly for the safety of, but also, I think, I don't know if I want to use the term gesture of goodwill, but I think we need to help, we need to try to help support our businesses down there. For the most part, they're paying us premium dollars and they're on that wonderful pier, and I don't think we even realize I think it's going to be all going to be very interesting to us to see just how much traffic and additional parking is going to be attracted because of this pier. And I think we need to help our businesses out so that their employees can get to work and we can service our tourists and the whole thing works. So I support it.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Stabey?
Can I ask a question? This $25 to $30 per sign that we're going to charge, or what it costs to make that sign, could we not charge that off to the person who buys in spots? Let them pay the $25 to have their sign with their name on it?
Yeah, I was just trying to say how much it costs. Yeah, it's.
You know, and that would save us from paying for it, or if they would just pay for their sign and actually put their own names on them signs to go along, no parking except for these people, for that restaurant, and charge them $25 or $30, whatever it happens to cost. Not try to make nothing off of it, just whatever it costs to sell it to them.
I don't see why we couldn't do that.
Okay, that would be a thing.
Right now, what we're trying to do is say, do we agree we're gonna hit 16 spots, and then we can look at the details of the south.
Okay.
And I just wanted to tell you a little how much it costs.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Krecklau?
I'd just like to say that that's almost half the lot we're going to be taking over. We might as well sell the whole lot to them. Let them buy the lot. I'm serious. I mean, we paid over $500,000 by the time we developed that lot as a parking lot. So it's like we need to recoup some of our money, and by giving away half of it at $300 a year, and then on top of it, we're giving them reserved spaces. How is Pivot Parking going to deal with that? If someone parks in a reserved spot, they're gonna give them a ticket, even though it's a paying customer that paid to park, and then they they already parked in it and they paid for it, but then they realized they were parked in somebody's spot. It's like, I guess I just have a problem with, us reserving spaces. The parking's always gonna be an issue in a beach town, and we're compounding the problem, in my opinion, but that's just me.
Any other comments? Michelle?
We've already approved, well, not us here, it's on Fourth South. The Ocean Company, the Ocean Adventures, they have 2 reserved spots. And I guess it's in their contract. So we already gave them 2 spaces, so I don't know how you can give one company spaces and not the others. So I'm just saying that out loud, to consider that you have.
Theirs was in their contract.
Oh, theirs was in their contract.
Mr. Vincent and I looked at that recently. I did not see 2 spaces.
Oh, I'm talking about the surf diner.
Oh, yeah, but
No,
she's talking about.
I'm talking about the.
Oh, theirs isn't
She's
in
talking
the
about
contract, but they don't pay for them either. I don't know why they have them.
Oh, then,
Yeah, they should not be allowed to put any cones up or anything like that. But, well. go
okay,
ahead.
but they actually have signs that says the company name and parking. They have 2 of them there. So if you have a company that's already getting 2 spaces and you're saying they're not paying for it, you need to fix that also to be able to say, well, how can you not charge them, but you're gonna charge the rest of them? So that needs to be resolved.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Cracklow.
I'd like to add also then, so then when do you stop selling spaces? Who wants to buy a space, you know? Do we sell a citizen a space so he can have a reserved spot? I'm just saying, you know, that for this discussion purposes. That's all I got.
Any other comments? Okay, I have a couple. I do believe the pier parking lot has 2 spots reserved for Surf Diner. That's in the contract, in the lease. So I heard the explanation now, 16 was the 10 plus allowing for a few more, should they want to get into this program. Mr. Craiglaw said almost half the lot. Do you know how many spaces are in that lot?
When I talked to Aaron Pivot, he said around 40.
40?
And then the previous notes I said was 32. So I'm gonna say, he was saying 40.
And Mr. Mayor, 2 of those are handicapped, so they don't generate any income. They also cannot be used as a reserve spot.
Okay, so it really is half, or
Yeah,
it could even be a little more using it, if it's 32 and 2 are handicapped. Okay. And how was 300 arrived at?
I think that was, I think actually, the king had put that in there one time, back last year, when we tried to do this. But I don't think it was 300, I think it was 200 and something.
Yeah, year before.
Yeah.
Year before, it was average $245 per space. We chose 300. Then I found out this past summer, it actually came out to a little over $400 per space. But we had offered Drippies, we'd offered Perry's at 300. They were interested. Neil and Pam was interested at 300. We have not raised the price. Yeah, it's going to cost the town a little money. We're not going to maximize the profit. How this works is the business owner will have to register the license tag of his employees. And if there's somebody in that spot that's not listed as on his license tag, they will probably issue a ticket. But if whoever got the ticket, if they've actually paid, then Aaron can void the ticket. Aaron's being the gentleman that administrates our parking there in the back of town hall. He's pretty good at keeping up with what's going on. And he does have the authority to void a ticket when it can be proven that somebody tried to make the payment or made the payment at the wrong place or whatever. He can check what they've actually done. So it's going to be up to the business owner to keep Pivot informed of who's allowed to park in that space. But they've been told that. So if an employee comes in, works 2 days and leaves, they take him off the list, the next person comes in. That's the problem with the old system where we had, so for $20, an employee could buy a 30-day pass. Well, they can only work 2-3 days and then leave, and they had a free month's parking. So, again, the few businesses that we talked to are very interested in doing it. The few businesses that responded were very interested in doing this.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Staney.
as we talk about these 16 spots that we're talking about giving, if we just put up the signs on the ones that buys them, and let the other spots stay open for people to park in until we sell that spot or a business buys them spots, then they have to put up their signs. Because if we don't have the 8 spots taken, there's 8 spots still left open there. So that would be over, that would help the parking funds of it. And don't get in there and just dedicate 16 spots right off the bat. Just dedicate the ones that we sell at that time.
All right. Any other comments? I guess with that, it would be 10 spots. Looks like they'd go pretty immediately. So these places being, Perry's asking for 2, so it could be his morning guys or his afternoon guys, so he'd probably be registering 4 vehicles. Drippy's will probably have, they won't have 40-hour employees. So my guess is they'll have a fairly large collection of high school students, maybe college students, where they may register 8, 10, 12 vehicles for those 4 spaces. I guess they can come down on a day they're not working, grab a spot, and take it, and that would be unethical maybe, but it could happen. Same with Neil and Pam's. They have huge shifts. So 4 spots, he's probably gonna register 20 vehicles. I don't know. It seems difficult to manage it. There's a lot of logistics that have to work out. That would be my concern. Any other comments?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Kinkin.
Pivot is aware of the complications, and they say they can handle it. He said the only thing they can't handle is if somebody leaves and the business doesn't tell them. And if that happens, somebody has a parking space for free. But then their other employees won't have a parking space, and we feel like it's very manageable. Pivot can do it very simply because they register the tags, and that's all they have to look at is this tag registered, and if so, they just move on.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Coleman.
And it's sort of going to be like self-enforced. So if you go to, say you work with Drippy's, you go there and you see somebody who's not working for Drippy's at that time, and you go to your boss and you tell them, when you go to Pivot, you say, this person's not supposed to be parked there now. They're not supposed to use it for the beach. It's supposed to be sort of self-enforced. So that was the idea along with Pivot.
I would hope so. The only other comment I'll make is that I think that lot is going to be much more in demand this year than it ever has been because of the pier, because of the higher costs at Yopan as well. I think it's going to be full all the time. So we are giving up more than last year's numbers indicate, in my opinion. All right, are there any other comments, questions? Okay, then I'm going to do one thing. I'm going to suggest an amended motion to say up to 16 spaces, but only as they're purchased. I'll leave the 300 per space for 2024, and then we'll have to address this again at the end of the year, or before next season starts. That's my motion. Is anybody gonna?
I'll second.
I'll second. I'm sorry. We're not used to making motions.
I don't usually do it. I think Mr. Kinkin said it first, but however, Ms. Medina recorded it. All right, so now the motion would read, we'll sell up to 16 spaces, but only sign as needed, or assign them as they're purchased, leaving the spaces available for other usage until they're sold, and only for 2024. One more discussion point, and we may want to amend again. Mr. Stamey brought up the having the business pay for a sign, and I believe you estimated $25 per sign?
Yeah, I talked to Aaron, and I think you talked to John, and around $25, $30.
Would somebody want to make a motion to change it to $325 to include the price of the sign?
I'm in the motion to make it $325 to include, to cover the sign. Yeah, that would be correct. Instead of trying to even charge it for, just let them pay $325 and they get their sign for free. Be the same thing.
Do we have a second?
A second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. The motion is now for up to 16 spaces, but allocated only as they're sold to the business owners at $325 per space, including sign, for the year of 2024. Any other comments? All right, we pieced it together pretty well. Ms. Medina?
Ms. Fallon,
Yes.
Mr. Kinkin,
Yes.
Mr. Coleman,
Yes.
Mr. Cracklaw,
No.
Mr. Stamey,
Yes.
Mr. Walls,
Yes.
Mayor Kraus.
I'll vote yes, so it passes 6-1.
Mr. Mayor, before we move on, and the administrator's report, he referred to Grand Dunes, Grand Palm. I'd like to update everybody on what took place, if I can.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
During our parking committee, Grand Palms came and visited with us, and there was a discussion about using a bus route with the main entrance and exit being Surfside Drive. We proposed a stop at the west end, probably right there beside the barber shop. A second stop at the end of Surfside Drive, across from the pier. Third stop would be on the ocean front on third or fourth south. I wrote down third, but it may have been fourth. And then come back out and go to third north for the fourth stop, and then return going back up Surfside Drive. The reason we talked about this is right now Grand Dunes has 4 buses. They come across the stoplight there at 5th and are using basically a residential street to come and go multiple times a day, maybe 2 to 3 times every hour during the busy part of the summer. He told us they had roughly 100,000 people there during the summer, and 25,000 of them use the bus to go to our beach. We thought the reason we picked these 4 spots was it would give their customers a chance to see our business area on the beach. Plus, by having 3 beachfront stops, because across the street from the pier, those people could walk across and go to the beach also, but it would spread them out. I don't know if any of you go down on third north last summer. There'd be up to 200, 250 people in that small area. For some reason, people don't want to walk and spread out, so they'll sit on top of one another. I don't think people and this is coming from the committee. I don't think people that spend $6,000 to $10,000 want to come to a crowded beach. That's why they come here, because we're not Myrtle Beach. We're not the campgrounds where they're packed on top of one another. They like the idea that they're spread out a little bit. So we're trying to promote that. And the reason we don't want them using Fifth, because it's a residential street. It's not, Surfside Drive has sidewalks on both sides. It's wide. It's the only negative, as I see it, is the speed bumps. They're uptown, but it's easy to get in and out of. And our other concern is, we don't think these are going to be the only 4 buses we see on Surfside. We think that some of the other communities will pick up on this and will register buses, or I don't know what they'll use. Maybe they'll use Tito's trolley, but they'll have a group pickup and bring them to our beach. So we want to be able to regulate it down the road. We had a very good conversation with them, and then we left it that they're going to take their buses. In fact, I saw one today going down Surfside Drive. So they're going to do some test runs. Their biggest concern is safety. They like 3rd South, 3rd North, because they come in and they unload right before you start the parking lot. Now, when they go to leave the parking lot, it's a little crowded, but they unload before they get into the parking lot on Seaside Drive. So anyway, they're going to look at it and come back and tell us what they think. I just wanted to fill everybody in on what's going on. I've heard complaints about Fifth Avenue in the 10 years I've been here, all 10 years. And I understand why they do it, because it's simple. They just go straight across at the light, right down to the boulevard, turn right, go down to Second, turn left, drop off at Third, and reverse it. I don't think that's the best route for the town. I'd like to see them get off Fifth Avenue. But we can't force them. We can make a recommendation, and well, I don't know that we can or can't. I'll let somebody else decide that. But that's where we stand. We made the presentation. They've been very receptive.
They also, just so you know, they're going to be in the next meeting. So they're doing a test run. One of the things they were doing was a test run to see, and then they're going to present it to the committee again, and we'll talk about it. So I just wanted to mention that. Okay?
Thank you. Mr. Mayor?
Ms. Shawn?
I also want to mention, they also last summer were using 4th North. They were, because I live on the corner of Cedar and 4th, and they were using that, and of course, one of their buses on those, because a lot of kids, I encourage kids to play on that street. I cringe when I see the teenage boys, teenage girls on Fifth skateboarding. So I'll actually walk over there and say, "One block over, guys," because there's hardly any traffic on 4th. But I've seen that bus multiple times. My daughter called and asked them not to do it. They'll stop for a while, but they'll come back to it. So if you guys meet again, I would mention that. Because that street doesn't go straight down either. So I don't even know why they're doing it, but they do it. Just FYI.
Thank you.
Any other comments? I just want to say, I got with Mr. Vincent and reached out to Andy Wolf at Grand Palms, hoping that he would connect with the parking committee and you guys would come up with a amenable solution. My understanding is that Grand Palms wants to go down Surfside Drive. They want to go to the pier. So I don't think that's going to be a big issue. I think they've got concerns about multiple stops. And quite frankly, 3rd North and 3rd South are very crowded. I live on 4th North, so 3rd North is where I usually go, and it is very crowded. So I don't see a big advantage to making them shift their people to those two. I would say near the pier and let them disseminate to First and Second, either way, which are just golf cart parking areas, and keep them away from Third, North, and South, because those are already quite crowded. But again, you guys can work through it on the parking committee, and we'll see what their trials look like. But I look forward to an agreeable solution for everybody.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Kinkin.
One of their comments was that wherever we suggest should have bathrooms and maybe showers. And of course, the 3 places we've suggested have both. But that's something they look for their customers.
Well, and the pier will have.
Yes.
We'll have that, so, okay.
They'll be through by then.
All right, any other comments on this? All right. Mr. Cole.
I think the idea was to spread the people away from the pier. You could have a pier stop, I believe it was supposed to be Fifth South, a stop there as a basketball. It's further away from the pier, if people want to get away from the crowds. And then possibly, Third North, not dumping everybody on Third North, but dumping everyone on the pier. And going down Surfside Drive, so they actually see the businesses that we have. Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Staney.
And if they thought about this, I think it's pretty funny that we supply the bathrooms, we supply the water, but yet these people who are coming in here don't want to give you nothing. They don't want to pay no parking, they don't want to do nothing. All they want to do is come to our facilities that we pay for as a town resident to come to our bathrooms. Why couldn't they do, if we didn't have bathrooms, would they not come? I mean, just a simple question. That they saying, well, we want the places that's got bathrooms and showers, but yet they don't donate, or the majority of them 10,000 people they bring over here does not donate to this town whatsoever at a big rate at all. I mean, they buy houses down on the beach, but as far as the other business, I doubt if they pay anything there.
I'll simply say that it's only anecdotal evidence, but Mr. Wolf talked about all the Divine Dining cups that he cleans out of the shuttle buses every day. So they're buying them somewhere. And I think it really behooves us to try to develop a partnership. And they've already reached out and asked about, can they advertise some events in their buses? We saw the flyer here about discounts and so forth. So I think we want to encourage them to spend money in town. They're going to be here no matter what. So we should try to work with them, in my opinion. But again, I'll let the parking committee take that on. Maybe ultimately we need to have the business committee get involved and come up with some ideas that they could partner with the businesses.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. King.
It's 4 buses, but that's a lot better than how many ever 25,000 divided by 4 cars. 6,000, 7,000 cars coming in every day, or during the season. So we're better off with the buses than we would be with cars.
Yeah, the cars wouldn't come in, they'd have to leave.
It'd be a place to park.
All right, are there any other comments? All right, with that, we are moving on to item 9, public comments, town services or business conducted. Come on up, whoever gets here first.
Come on down.
Ron, 7th Avenue North. It's always been looked at in the town of Surfside Beach that less is more. That's how we've always looked at it. And April Fools, you guys, new administration and everything, we're done your first quarter. Okay. And it's been a long time since I felt like I lived in the family beach. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh.
Wow.
Oh, what's big?
I'm ready to try.
Diana Taylor, 7th Avenue North. And there's a couple of you on council, and I'm on the parking committee, that are worried about these 16 spots. Now, what did you expect when you built businesses on this pier? And where do you expect employees to park? None of you have come up with that solution. And at least this Hopefully, we'll make enough in revenue, hospitality tax, and public relations. So 16 spots is nothing. And I worked on the pier for several years. So I think it's a good step in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? All right, then we'll move to town council comments, discussion and or comments. And I'm going to start with Mr. Stamey.
Thanks, Ron, for starting with me. But let me just start out by saying thanks for everybody that's here. We are trying to work together, and I hope everybody realizes that. And I want to say a big thanks to Larry Carter personally. Larry has done a lot for this town. He has served this town a whole lot more than a lot of people want to give him credit for. Larry loves Surfside, and I know he does because I've talked to Larry about this before. I hate that Larry wasn't made chief, and I want everybody to know it. I was for that, and it was an open vote, so anybody that wants to go back and look, they know who voted and who didn't. But anyway, Larry, thank you. Thank you very much for being in this town. I hate to see you leave. I hope between now and April 1st, you change your mind. But if you don't, good luck on whatever you decide to do. And on the other hand, I want to thank our police department for showing up and speaking up for Mr. Hoffman. Mr. Hoffman is a given to this town. I think that he is one of the, probably the best people we could have had to be chief. I've talked to Mr. Hoffman. I've asked Mr. Hoffman questions. And everything I've asked him, he's always tried to make an effort to answer me. And if anybody's got a problem with Mr. Hoffman, I would suggest that you go make an appointment and sit down and talk to the man and ask him questions instead of just doing certain things to try to get something against him. I hate this is happening. I hate what went on here 2 weeks ago. And was saying that, Kenny, I've got you back, man. I'm telling you. To the rest of the employees of this town, John Adair and Gerber, Miss Gerber, and the administrator, it's hard. It's very hard to what's going on in this town, and we have certain people who keeps trying to dig up old stuff. Go back to here and go back there. So that's the reason we had a audit of this town. It's because of the people. And some people on council at that time kept saying there was illegal stuff going on. So we had a forensic audit. They checked back and they found everything to be up board. I was so glad to hear that report. It was unbelievable. But thanks to the people who work for this town, I appreciate it. I stand behind our employees any day of the week. And this police department, I'm behind you guys. Thank you.
Mr. Coleman.
Thanks for coming out, folks. A little less people than we normally have, but I'm glad to see Surfside Beach finest. It's nice to hear that the officers like their chief. Police officers are great. I love them. They're the best. I mean, God made police officers so that firefighters would have heroes. And that's the truth. And my son's a firefighter, and I used to get busted chops all the time about that. But having said that, as you said, there's might be disgruntled ex or former employees of the town. That might be true. But as a police officer, you know that if you get a complaint, you're supposed to investigate. And that's simply what is happening tonight. Unfortunately, it was put on the agenda the wrong topic. Nobody is looking to terminate the chief. We're looking to try to find out why all the officers and personnel left the department. Is it salaries? We don't know what it is. We want to look into it. We are looking to protect you possibly in the future. That's all we're doing, folks. We're not gonna, I mean, there's people running around this town and they're spreading nonsense. They are looking to make trouble. They are pot stirrers. And that's as simple as it is. Last time in August, the rumor was we're getting rid of the police department and the fire department. That was totally not true. So be careful of what you listen to. And again, I thank the police officers for doing their job. I don't know if you heard it, a police officer from New York City, which I used to be, was killed last night. He was killed doing a car stop. Now, you know as officers, that car stops are one of the most dangerous things you can do. And this officer was with another officer. He wasn't doing solo patrol. He was 31 years old. He had an infant. He's not coming home anymore. And I know you guys are out there doing your job. And you're doing an awful lot of traffic stops. And you're doing it by yourself. Please be very, very careful. Thank you.
Ms. Shaw.
First thing I want to say is, tonight when I go home, I'm saying extra prayers. I'm from Maryland originally, born and raised. My grandparents actually immigrated into Locust Point. And the Key Bridge collapsed today due to an accident. So when you go to bed tonight, I hope you will join me, say special prayers for people who are not going to make it home. I appreciate all the responders, because you guys run towards danger where the other people are running the other direction. With that said, I know it was a little heated when I walked in here. I had a couple officers that their looks, you didn't even have to have a gun on you, because some of you were very rude. And I understand that you were defending your chief, and you can do that. I applaud you for doing that. But at the same time, I respect you, and I expect you to respect me. I'm here not to fire people. I'm here to find out answers. So I don't know what you heard, but if you ever have a problem with me, please come talk to me. I'm the most open person there is. So I hope the people that were giving me the looks and dismissing me as I was walking in here, I hope the temperature came down a lot. We're not here to, especially the first responders. You're in my heart all the time. I work 9/11. I know what it takes to be a first responder. So please think about that also. Once again, the residents joining us here in person, plus online, I can't tell you how much I appreciate y'all being here. So God bless and stay safe.
Mr. Kinkin.
Good evening. Like others, I'm very glad to see so many people here. I'm glad to see our policemen here supporting their chief, and I hope there are a lot of people listening in. First thing I got to do is apologize, because on February 13th, we received a very good report from our annual audit that we receive every year, plus a good report from our forensic audit. I failed to thank the person responsible, Diana King. She has done outstanding service for this town for many years, and we are financially secure mainly because of her, because of the work she has done to protect this town. So with that, I want to say thank you, Diana. Tonight, we're all having an executive session to discuss turnover in the police department. We will probably hear the same things that I heard last summer when I asked about it. And I think what bothers me most is some of our council members have not had the opportunity, have not taken advantage of the opportunity to talk to our administrators or department heads. Some have not been to see Kenny. I know several had not been to see Acting Chief Larry. I think we need as a council to do a better job of asking questions of our directors before meetings. If you've got a question, and some of them, it's pressed for time, but I think they will all make time to answer our questions, and we need to do that before we come to meetings. It's just like we need to read our packet before we come to meetings. I think we all do that, but it's important for us to go and visit with our town leaders. That's what they are, and get the answers that we need. I do want to thank our staff and directors and their staff for the time and great job they do for this town. We have a great town, and it's because of them. And with that, I'll say God bless all of you, and see you in a few weeks. Thank you.
Mr. Cresswell.
Well, I'd like to start out with addressing one of the comments at the beginning of the meeting about never putting names or positions in the executive session. We have done that, maybe not this particular council, but it has been done. I remember when our town clerk, it actually said town clerk. I believe it said the P&Z director one time. I know, the only one I know for sure was the town clerk, but it has been done. It wasn't the first time we've done it. You don't have to go into that granularity or whatever you want to call it, but we did for some reason. I don't know who did it, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, I'd also like to address the last meeting where I had a fairly long speech about a council person having to pay for information. It just so happened, it happened to be about an inquiry into the police department personnel turnover. It wasn't against the police, it was against the fact that the town was considering charging for the information that the council person was asking for. That's what I had an issue with. So I guess with that, good night and thanks for coming.
Mr. Walls.
I think I'm just gonna keep it short and sweet. I just wanna thank you all for coming. Thank you, Larry. I'm gonna miss you, brother. Appreciate everything you've done for this town. And the patience you had with me, bringing me up to speed on a lot of issues that I wanted to know about when I got into this job. It's a big job and I needed to know a lot, and you were very patient with me. Thank you. I wish you all the best. Please, guys, I shook all your all's hands on the way in. Thank you all for showing up for Chief Hoffman. It's great to see you guys. Good looking bunch of cops. I'll tell you what, I like it. Thank everybody who came out tonight in support of what they thought was going to be a different issue than I was called about. This got out to me. I think we all got called. But anyway, thank y'all for coming out. Thanks for the people that listened in, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
All right, I'll close it out. I also want to thank everybody who's here, everybody who's online, everybody who gets in touch with all of us on any issue. It's your town, so we need to work for you. So keep it on. I want to thank the police and, just for the show of support. I think that's very important. It is a message well sent. I want to thank Deputy Chief Carter. I would also like that he would change his mind, but, we'll see where that goes. I'll also echo Ms. Shawn's comments. I grew up on the other side of the Key Bridge. I actually watched it go up. It opened 47 years ago. I'm older than 47, quite a bit. So yeah, I watched it. I commuted over it, for the better part of a year. And that's quite a thing to wake up and see that this morning. Anyway, as far as this issue in executive session goes, it has not been handled well, and we're going to talk about it. But the biggest problem I have is that we here in council did too much talking. It got out public. It never should have been. It does nothing to help the chief by posting this stuff online and social media. It just, and that came from here, and I know it. So, we're gonna talk about it, and, because we've gotta stop that. It is not right to the chief, it's not right to the police, it's not right to all of you. We need to act professionally here, and again, we're gonna talk about that tonight. So with that, I'll conclude my remarks. We'll look for a motion to exit into executive session.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Coleman.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the regular meeting and enter executive session pursuant to the Freedom of Information Act, section 30-4-70A1, discussion of employment, compensation, promotion, discipline, or lease of an employee.
I'll second that.
You have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. We're now entering executive session. Yeah, no,
I didn't think I was gonna make it that far.
Yeah.